A little young nation, America, and the rest of the species identity of volume /S. We are to see this so we could see, so we could discern the identity of hyper-simultaneous nature, that being individual as a distinct identity of volume, being grouped, areas, ages, sexes, the ancients before education was not just entertained, forced to self-value, other being taught and told in place of the revelations that had been revealed to the ancients that we came from before modern nations found themselves defending sciences as identity of the ground, conjunctions to its system, native pure, that no one could defend, actual fact treatment, nature quality, sequence treatments, and justifications of it. And so premises treatment styles, fact treatment, nature quality, where it is not just positive or negative, it is positive or negative that is per its 1/3/5 identities of relationship to itself, where it is bound as three identities of volume, inherent, active, and progressive, for example, grouped, and where there is an identity of sequence/simultaneous nature. Science reveals that came before this, already forged and doesn't mix. Where and how that invisible part of ourselves also has a hyper-invisible part of itself that is also further positive or negative, individually grouped in together as its body. What's positive onto it? When one person is positive onto themselves, it is simultaneously the phenomenon. If one part of your body is positive onto itself, it is simultaneously the phenomenon /phenomena of being positive onto your complete identity. All parts of your body are positive onto each other. See, that's why it's important. It's not just words trying to oppress Native Americans. Native Americans' rights. See, there's a difference between making a positive out of negative and revealing positive that will only stay positive to itself. All exceptions in exception nature and demonstration of the same thing. For example, that's what Leith of Hadith is, per science of observation, using this method, not of thought, of ratiocination pseudo-ratiocination. Aware of this trinity, the slash also counting as an identity of volume, where volume equals value as nature / nature as value. So there is an invisible but still discernible value / value progression that the water and the elements of the earth are, as with the sequence / simultaneous nature /S that a cell is, as a cell body, a cell nucleus, and as a cell wall, distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously. My name is Anthony Wall. My YouTube channel is youtube.com/user/Romulus Wall. This is Romulus Science. See, it's not by accident that this was revealed by nature, and nature is demonstrating it. See, but now we have entertained other being and having been taught. So it's not just to say that we have short words and revelations, things that were supposed to be taught to us. We have other being taught to us because there's a method that needs to exploit that. The mental health of humanity, for example. And so they could sequence shift also per the roles with this. See, this is complete remote possession over all defenses of treatments of practicality. For example, where and how they leave out the simultaneous, let alone and the hyper simultaneous, which begins and stays more finite, while as the most finite ideas. Well, we are prevented the finite. We are prevented demonstration of how exceptions in exception nature are the way, and how everything is unfolding the way it is, as a value/value progression, as a quality of diffusion. Note how a criminal insidiousness nature is going to make positive and negative treatments where they're going to use truths for lies. They're going to use, in other words, even positive things can be used for negative. An invention can work or not. That it could be positive or not, work or not, is positive or not. But it is also, inventions can further be positive, they are further positive or not simultaneous. And the hyper-simultaneous demonstrates this to us. So a breaching method put all kinds of crazy laws against what everyone could say. That was a law. If you even tried to say anything about the law /S, or any, it involved everyone tied to each other as a big knave, as the identity of the volume, as the soul of the species body, where one person can only be positive or negative onto it. And what is greater than and more finite than its identity of volume, where and how it's only increasing. This is with the phenomenon of the only increasing, temporary / lasting value of where Earth is, where 3 years, for example, even everything at once, individually grouped in together, is in demonstration of how we are a quality of diffusion, as an identity of volume that is only increasing. As for more and more forever nature being made, that which is how one identity of hyper-simultaneous nature. Or if people don't believe it and people think it's more, there was more to it, more simultaneous natures, the ancients used science that needs words like, religion and relingo, and like religion, one species body, and grouped, so we could discern the hyper, that greater than and finite than, but still solid, and as solid as your identity is, invisible but still discernible. Only the extent of it is debatable. You are a quality of diffusion, you are increasing identity of volume where value is value as nature / nature as value. And the / is an identity of volume too. Again, where volume equals, where hypervolume, call it, equals value as nature / nature as value. Now, the identity that is right to left and that is left to right, it will stay bigger than left to right. It will see, in other words, its identity of volume /S is like, note how also cell nucleus, cell body, cell wall, so /S. The cells share the cell walls. And remember, the water and the air and the elements of earth are coming through it. Because everything is in demonstration of the one hyper native identity of hyper-simultaneous nature, which is distinct from what is individual, what is distinct from what is grouped as volume, and what is distinct from what is grouped as species identity of volume /S. Because all that difference is used to show difference, but it's also used to show what causes negative value nature progressions or positive value nature progressions. Evolution's fruits and gifts means out of nowhere. All exceptions in exception nature being and having been employed for other fact treatment nature oriented. That was per a method /S, the same way computers work. Don't be a jerk. Each species body, each. So one must teach. Free speech. So, in other words, we had means before the pandemic. There is complete possession of the names, therefore of, and the names uses of, therefore the identities of, the physical bodies of countries A through Z. It is clear as day here. They have been shared with and as what can't defend itself, fact treatment nature oriented, and yourselves and ourselves at the same time. I just remind, since semi-ancient times, we're in a semi-ancient trap. Even if I was wrong, there are so many proofs and demonstration of it. See, but what they don't collude, they don't. In other words, there were obligations for people to discern how, when they speak for the economy, our founders needed us to demonstrate how roles with the economy was roles with and as a criminally foreign influenced value progression system that was identity theft /frauds oriented. And we know the databases were self-valued, criminally foreign influenced, as through people who were victims. Every one of the species. So that's what is good. People want to say bad with passions and emotions because victims, because that's maintained outcome /S. Because it is complete possession of the identity the sciences share. This employed everyone to uses of theories inter sciences, consciously to use standing criminal insidious natures of positive treatments and of negative treatments, increasingly needing to hide lipoaggressions, in fact, cheapening nature uses of others' names and relationships to locations and where everyone speaks to other people. We have a fact cheapening nature illness. We have an identity theft /fraud method /S illness. And the plural part is through the names and titles of and as modern nations abridged each. Not just abridged constitution, not just abridged republic, not just abridged treatments of yin yang. You know, there is no name of a country that honestly, that could speak for the soul of anybody in it, individual, grouped, or together. All we have to do is admit that and not blame other things, others, or ourselves, even when we're correctly doing that. And we need to keep it pointed on the method, entertain. This shows instantly, too. There are so many proofs simultaneously, but we have to purport these are the victim-predator interbranch roles. They want us to call them predators so they can say, oh, well, like they called us a predator. That's another part of their sequence shifts. They're pretending they perceive things when they hear us speaking because they're leaving out all that they actually communicate as individuals grouped and together. Each branch of government, all private tied to them, overt criminal enterprises and private ones, and militaries, foreign and domestic, in hundreds of nations, police forms here and there, shared. You know, note, students shared. on off campuses? No. We are in a trap since before our founding parents were born. Since before their founding parents were born. Other modern countries. There was already being and having been entertained. Fact-cheaping treatments, uses of the system that is native pure. That is what nature is demonstrating. Where and how we have a conjunction where there can be positive or negative effects with the grounds, locations, let alone with ourselves. And the conjunction, because there is a greater than and more finite than conjunction at the same time. And where it is conjunction /s, it is increasingly no longer capable of entertaining the sensibilities by entertain short words with convictions and opinions. This is why and how it hasn't been demonstrated. It is clear as day. What is a predicate act about? In other words, what is slavery about? It's about a predicate acts delivery system method. That is an identity theft /fraud method that does not leave out how they had those crazy laws against every single person. It does not leave out how all exceptions and exception nature are in demonstration of the same thing. Why is it important for me to use these words and phrases this way? Because our founders wanted us and needed us to be able to counter natures of things like criminal insidiousness. Criminal insidiousness natures like wrongdoers. People that would commit predicate acts. People that would in other words, this is all that was allowed, fathomed by individuals, by groups, and across the identity of our volume, across which is distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously, which is across the identity of volumes, identity of grounds, identity of relationships to the hypernature, the simultaneous nature. So I don't even have time to keep things secret about why I want to make a gaming system, ancient gaming system. And this is the narrative behind the games. In France, Legion. And would drop off pantheism, which sends reliefs because then it makes locations, areas, and states and countries have reliefs from what they need to spend on, which is simultaneously self-valuing and furthering negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures. For example, jobs that pretend to be experts capable of dealing with the negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures only, engineered in New York City. There is a breaching method /s that is overtly /insidiously communicating to us since our founding. And our fellow Americans, individually grouped and together, will tell us don't use correlations, nature, simultaneously inherent, active, and progressive means. Blame other things. Blame the white man. Look how many different countries are white and how none of them get along. There's no organization by color. Look how black and black were against, and other black, white, and all these people were in collusion between the countries involved with slavery. Look how they keep it as an isolated subject and where they were hurting people sickly distinctly. And it was specifically to keep how sickly non-distinctly everyone shut that hell up or blame, excuse my language, or blame other people, other things, or ourselves for what is spoken about as positive or negative. So even truths are used and capable of being used for lies. And that is increasingly by styles of fact-cheaping nature that are increasingly self-valuing, there having been boxings, but one way alone. Boxing the martial arts and wrestling were more probably and demonstrably needing to be conceived together, where there are needs to fight and to have rules followed at the same time. But rules have not been capable of being followed since semi-ancient times. This just reminds the people that speak for economic phenomenon, conjunction to the economic phenomenon, and people that speak with roles, hundreds of countries at once, individually grouped together, need to find words and then defenses of words, styles of fact treatments, positive and negative treatments, identity treatments, name treatments, location treatments that can't defend themselves. And from what Captain keeps, the premises treatments criminally foreign influence at all locations, areas, and states, the entire species volume over. All identity grounds were set up to keep, that it's one thing to say, oh, we have to worry about the economy because then we'll have problems. How long did we know that there could be did we know that the economy was employed that way? Hear many pray. To keep divided and conquered. It was already divided and conquered. And where it is fact-cheap nature. So they made the Native Americans what is most probable to be where history begins is that a breaching method stole everyone from the ability to remember, because they destroyed everyone's memory of what was revealed to humanity by nature itself. And about in other words, and nature is continuing to demonstrate that. But now it is demonstrating it through filters, where all positive and negative are include self-value conclusion. Because, everyone was child abused this one way since semi-ancient times. Even countries are little kids. We have to find that nature of conjunction to and as our nature's identity of relationship to itself as a species, as it working out simultaneously as a plan. Not using faith, not using prayer. We need the word prayer for science, not for, and what that science is 5 identities of sequence / simultaneous nature. And exceptions are where and how they are bound as 3 identities of sequence / simultaneous nature. And as the exception / exception nature that is hyposimultaneous, we're not supposed to agree about the name of it. And we need to agree about the name of it too, simultaneously. This is what needs us to discern what is hot and what is cold, and what is warm simultaneously. This is what us, in other words, because that's how it shows itself, the hyper-simultaneous. That which is conjunction to the subject, the verb, and the sentence distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously. So Eve looks more like the predicate. And Adam looks more like the subject. And Alpha and Omega distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously our mother. Then the 13th letter, no. The middle letter. And XYZ is extinction. Y, zenith, the highest point. Before this most finite thing was ever generated. See, we're supposed to reveal the science of this. This is what the beginning of the Old Testament is about. But people's logic used the words and convictions of experts that were our victim predators, only capable of self-valuing means to get away with pretending other, facilitated by a breaching method of a child abuse method that is simultaneously multi-front, elderly abuse method, and is simultaneously keeping consciously active at each age of fact-cheating nature, blaming other things, others, and ourselves for the real causes of negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures, where the breaching method knew that it could maintain them not only manifest, but self-valued manifest. And they could use that remotely, all the way to us going to space in the way we use it and have used it. You know, and everything simultaneously. See, but people, one of the methods of child abuse is making people not allowed to use exceptions in exception nature. For example, with subjects treatments. We have people making problems between religions so they can keep uses of locations where they have the police forms, where they have the political branches, and where they have the courts, and all private tied to them, with overt criminal enterprises and with private ones, all those other countries, and then where everyone goes back to live with their timed offensive evidence reception is involved with a method that is fact-cheating nature, predicate acts, and wrongdoing, progression, collusion, subtle things. Specifically because it by a method and as a method that knew that they would have to hide that increasingly. Way worse, which is also where and how it is relevant, how they've been. The interbranch has victim reactions they've been confessing, demonstrating, and recording with the private tied to them, like the mental health care, especially the ones with badges, especially the ones without badges and with regarding their names, treatments of their own people's names and other people's names before founding. In other words, for example, too, because how individually grouped and together this is relevant. Also, in other words, people pretend not to understand people after they say simple words. They ask them to explain, and then they say, and they just make fake conversations with people because it shows there are wire crimes too. The FBI and other agencies have roles with elections crimes, worse than war crimes, and they can't admit it because they have some kind of a shared relationship with all these other countries. Not just roles with medical corruption that is involved with and as judicial corruption, prosecutorial corruption, employments at all the individuals individually grouped and together. They are criminally foreign influence victim predators used remotely, leading up to the World Trade Center attacking in it as Connecticut's roles, with uses remotely of the World Trade Center and of the Ninth Circuit Court right next to it, right before that. Sequence shifts show a lot of the things. It shows that how foreign and domestic have been in collusion with cases, treatments, with all the people in programs tied to the courts and things like that. People involved with it. They're just typing fake things, following, this is our processes. And then people are typing fake things in for people. See, our agency's former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, is involved with a whole bunch of people with Hartford, Connecticut, also within as Weathersfield Police, leading up to and in the World Trade Center attack context interstates, and worse than internations alone, and leading up to and in a 2006 district court case in Connecticut, and leading up to and in other cases, and their roles with wire crimes over the last year with the Weathersfield Police Department.